Well, hi folks, welcome to C Files. I had to make this video. I'm going to be releasing it first thing in the morning. It's late at night. I've been busy all day, and I come in and I sit down and I find out that for the first time in the history of the United States, a Speaker of the House has been removed for not keeping his word. It's a new day. We are sick. Let me put this on so we can have a little bit more light. There we go. We are sick of politics as usual. This is what's happening. They're trying to go after Gates for this. Gates is just representing we the people. We're tired of the lies, the deception, the lack of integrity, the lack of morals, the bribery, the payoffs, and the corruption that comes out of our national capital, Washington, D.C., and the representatives that are there. And finally, we get some people in there that actually have good old-fashioned integrity. And, of course, the deep state operatives, the rhino Republicans and the Democrats, are going to go after Gates, trying to kick him out of Congress because he was going after McCarthy. But this is the news, and in case you haven't heard already, McCarthy is out as Speaker. Yes, they fostered enough votes, they pulled enough votes together to kick him out of his speakership, and now they're going to have to fill that seat once again with someone else. Hopefully someone who will actually keep his promises, or her promises, whether it be male or female, and actually do what they say they're going to do, and would actually have some moral character and some integrity. This is what we need in Washington. This is what we need out of our federal government, is moral character and integrity. We've gotten a bunch of Ivy League graduates, or a bunch of smart, fancy, higher education graduates that lack integrity, lack wisdom, lack morals. And where does that put us? It's put us in a very, very bad situation in our country. $33 trillion in debt? Well, it's only a certain percentage of the GDP. How long do you think that GDP is going to hold out as our debt increases and the decision making concerning our economy becomes more and more and more foolish? Congress doesn't run the economy, but they can sure affect it heavily with their decisions. And they can make it harder for people to do business. And they can make it harder for business to be able to make a profit and grow and provide more jobs and provide good benefits and pay for people. Yeah, they can affect that heavily. I don't want someone in the speakership that's going to lie to us. I'm talking about us, we the people. They think it's all inside politics, inside their little chamber, their bubble there in Washington, D.C. Do they not understand that we the people are watching what they're doing? That populism is rising? That we're not taking this nonsense any longer? That we're now going to start holding them accountable, and we're going to elect people to office that will hold them accountable, like Gates, who held them accountable? Kudos to Gates. If they kick him out of Congress, let's vote him into something else. Let's make him vice president under Trump, or something like that. Or maybe he could be in the Trump administration and do a great job at one of those cabinet positions. You know, I mean, we'll find something for him. If they kick him out, fine. I'd love to put him in a position where he could still hold them accountable. I tell you, folks, it's a new day when for the first time in history, we the people, through our elected representatives, are able to kick out a Speaker of the House who said he would do certain things and did not, but cut deals with the opposite party and played the typical normal political game in Washington, thinking he would get away with it, and he did not get away with it. He paid a consequence. Hallelujah. It's about doggone time. Well, we're not showing unity. Unity in what? Unity in corruption? We're going to be unified in our corruption. We're going to be unified in our lies. We're going to be unified in our deception. We're going to be unified in our, bribery, in our insider trading. Oh, that's not the kind of unity I want. But that's the kind of unity we're getting. It's all of this propaganda rhetoric about unity, that crap that's going around by the, being pushed by the rhinos. Sorry, it don't fly out here in the heartland where we actually take the good morals and integrity and family values and all that very seriously. So good. I'm glad McCarthy is out. Let's put somebody in that will actually do what they say they're going to do and will actually show integrity. That's the thing we need the most in Washington. We don't need a bunch of smart Ivy Leaguers in Washington that are going to walk right in and continue the corruption. What we need is men and women of integrity. That is the most important thing we could see change Washington. And the trend is there. The populism is growing, and the demand of holding these people accountable is getting stronger and stronger and stronger. The people are crying aloud saying, we want to hold the people who are holding our elections accountable. We would love to see them go to jail or prison if they tinker with our elections and try to change the outcome. Oh yeah, we don't want that. No more election fraud. We want to see them being held accountable. The people are frustrated, but the people are not being held accountable because they have done that and they've not faced consequences. They should face consequences. So good. I'm glad McCarthy is gone. Good riddance. Don't let the door of integrity smack you on the rear on the way out. Now, California is continuing its draconian, tyrannical, communistic ways. They now want to heavily restrict classic cars and tell the classic car owner where they can drive the car, how far they can drive the car, what they can do with the car. They actually said, well, we've got to look into this classic car thing and find out what they're doing with these cars. Why do they need these cars? Because they put out emissions. They don't have, if you have a classic car, it could be pre-catalytic converter. and we got to save the planet. They're not saving anything. Save the planet, my foot. Those guys think they can save the planet with their stupid legislation? Really? Boy, they have a heightened sense of importance. The planet don't need saving, folks. It's just fine. you put out CO2 out of the out of the tailpipe, and the trees in my backyard, which are huge, by the way, they suck all that CO2 in and they use it. And that's how they grow so big. You wonder how these trees got so big? CO2. Photosynthesis coming from the sun and water and CO2. We've got enough trees to suck all that CO2 up. It doesn't go flying all the way up in the atmosphere and affect the ionosphere. The trees breathe it in. They take it in. And they put out oxygen. It's a symbiotic relationship we have with plant life. I breathe out CO2. And the trees take it in. And the trees produce oxygen, and I breathe in oxygen. That's how God designed it. So what's all this worry about CO2? Come on. The thing you need to be concerned about is a closed garage with carbon monoxide. That's where you'll end up with trouble. But you don't want to be doing that. Well, I tell you, it's just insanity. We're living in a time of insanity where they're pushing these lies and these deceptions to push an agenda. I'll tell you what they do with classic cars. Classic cars are living history. They're living history. Rather than reading about these manufacturers and these vehicles that revolutionized transportation in a history book, guess what a kid can do? A kid can go to a classic car show and actually see the actual car that was produced by said company in 1955, 1960, 1965, 1970. Maybe even all the way, if you're Jay Leno taking one to the show, he might bring one that was 1929. And you can actually look at the car. And I went to one, I was fascinated because a guy pulled this, it was a 1930-something truck out of the lake. It was in the lake. And he pulls it out of the lake and restores it and drives it to these car shows. And I'm sitting there looking at this truck, fascinated with it. It's, asking questions. How does the brake work? How does this work? This is fascinating. And what a fascinating story. These kids can look at the cars. They can ride in the cars. And if their dad is the one who bought the classic car and is restoring it or maintaining it, the kid can learn how to work on the car. They can learn about the engineering that went into the car. It's living history. You know what that does? That sparks the mind of the kid to love history and to even learn more. Well, learn more about the company that made it? And how did the company become so big? How many times have you seen YouTube videos, for example, on the Dodge brothers, the Dodge boys, and that whole history of how they were working with Henry Ford, and then they came out of that, and they started working with Chrysler, and what a fascinating history, and the innovation that they had. They were all about being the best and the most dependable and the fastest, and these are good lessons for kids. And then they can actually go look and see the actual product that was produced. Who wouldn't want to see maybe a 66 fastback Shelby Mustang? What a beautiful car, right? And what an amazing history. Or Ford Cobra. Or Camaro Z28. Or Pontiac Trans Am, or a Dodge Charger, one of the most, a 69 or 70 Charger RT, one of the most iconic muscle cars ever made. And do you realize the Mustang, which Lee Iacocca created, and it later went to Chrysler and created the minivan, is coming up on 60 years in production? In 2025, it'll be 60 years of production of the Ford Mustang. That is phenomenal. That's unheard of. What an amazing success story that is. It's a testament to the free enterprise system. It's a testament to capitalism. It's a testament to ingenuity. These are good lessons for kids. So, what do they do with classic cars? Probably more than the teachers you hire that are teaching history class. They're showing living history that you can start up and run and actually drive, rather than some kid being bored reading a page out of a history book. That doesn't inspire anybody, unless you're, a nerd like me and I love books. I mean, I could look at a Mustang or a Camaro or a Charger in a book and go, that's really cool. But you show me one in a car show, I'll be gawking, sitting there looking at it going, oh, wow, this is really cool. This is awesome. Here it is, right here in front of me. And I was alive when those cars were made. I was a kid. Now, when the Mustang came out in 64 and a half, I was 4.5 years old. But I remember the 7302 Boss. I remember the 429 Boss. I remember the Shelby Mustangs, the Mach 1s. I remember when they were made. I remember when they were new on the showroom. I was alive then. I was old enough to comprehend what was going on. I was 10 years old in 70. So I wasn't able to drive one, but boy, I sure loved to ride in them, It's living history. What's wrong with these legislators, folks? What's wrong with our elected officials? I'll tell you what's wrong with them. They've lost touch with the people. And they've lost touch with a little bit of wisdom, and a little bit of rational thinking, a little bit of logic, a little bit of understanding how something as simple as a classic car affects a whole range of matters, a whole range of subject matters, and how it affects kids in a positive way. I've had the opportunity to talk to kids in my neighborhood. Why? Because I drive a car that they gawk at. When I drive by, they're just like, oh, So I've stopped and I said, hey, you want to look at the car? I got to know some of these kids. One of them in high school. It's a conversation starter. You get to know people, you get to talking with people. Real conversations, not just on the phone doing this. That's a great thing. So there's more to it than just, ego, I got a cool car. No, that's not what it's about. Isn't it great to be able to drive what you want to drive? I mean, when you go and buy a car, don't you buy the one that you want? Whether it be a gas saver, or a gas guzzling hot rod, or a pickup truck, or some 4x4 off-roader, or whatever it might be, it's the car you want it to get, and the car you want it to drive. What a wonderful thing. to have that kind of variety. You know what that does? That brings glory to our Creator. Because our Creator, when you look at the cosmos, created it with such variety and such variety of colors and such variety of planets and stars. And I mean, the cosmos is a work of art. So yes, God cares about quality. He cares about, a good-looking vehicle. You know what communism gave us? And what communism produced as far as automobiles? Boring, barely running, all look-alike cars. That's what communism produced. Why? Well, because they have no sense of that aesthetic beauty, because they have no sense of God. They have no sense of innovation because they have no sense of God. That's why. It's just, well, is it practical and functional? Will it function? Will it work? Is it pragmatic? Okay, we'll use it. And what are car manufacturers producing now? I mean, I look at the SUVs that are out on the road today, and I'm like, okay, I gotta go find what the name on the SUV is to tell what kind of, who the manufacturer is. I can't tell the difference between them because they all look the same to me. I mean, it doesn't seem to me there's any real innovation in design. I mean, the body design and bringing the beauty out of the design, and it doesn't seem like there's any innovation there anymore. But you look at a Mustang, a Camaro, a Charger, a Challenger, a Cuda from the 1970, 69, 70, 71, 72, a Trans Am, a GTO. My goodness, they are beautiful automobiles. And just the designs are they're timeless. And why did cars go to make retro automobiles? My Challenger, my 2018 Challenger looks like a 1970 Challenger. You know why? Because that 1970 design is timeless. It's a magnificent design. And they wanted to do retro because it's such a great design. Well, what was the difference with the designers then and designers now? The designers then were looking at the aesthetic beauty. They were looking at making a statement of aesthetic beauty and art and functionality with their design. What are they looking at today? Well, is it practical? Is it pragmatic? Okay, it's good enough. We'll use it. Why? Because we're making that slide into communism. That's why. We're making that slide into draconian, control, the government trying to squeeze the life out of us by controlling every aspect of our life. In California, they're talking about you can't drive a classic car into certain cities. And if you own one and you live in that city, you can't drive it. And we think we're free? If we don't rise up, folks, and shut these tyrannical oligarchs down and make them accountable for their lack of integrity and their deceptions and their corruption, then we're going to lose everything. Stop being silent. And some of you white folks out there, and I'm going to say this, some of you white folks out there with your white guilt, and you're, well, I can't say anything because I'm white. You need to just go cower in a corner and sit there and be ashamed of yourself. God made you in His image. He made you a human being who has thought and the ability to speak that thought. Unless, you are not able to speak, which would be, a rarity, but that happens. But even then, you can write it down or type it out. He expects you to speak because all this white guilt and stuff, and you just sit in the corner and don't say anything because your ancestors were evil, whatever, Your ancestors did bad things, so therefore you have no voice. Nonsense. Everybody's ancestors did bad things. Whether you're white, black, brown, yellow, red, whatever it might be, all of our ancestors did bad things, okay? All have sinned and come short of the glory of God. There's none righteous, no, not one. Get it? Romans chapter 3, go read it. So you better start speaking up. And you better start defending the Constitution. You better start defending your liberties. You better start defending the truth and the righteousness of God and the wisdom of God. If you don't, you're going to lose everything. So stop being silent. Speak up. Oh, they'll call me names. They'll do this. They'll do that. Well, if you're afraid of that, then you're no good to humanity. And you're no good to anybody. Yeah, people are going to oppose you. They're going to say things. They're going to call you names. Sure, that's the world we live in. Toughen up. Get over yourself. Toughen up. Some of you might be wondering, what's this all about? It's the shirt I pulled out of my drawer today and put on. I knew I wasn't going to be going out doing anything. All the work I did was here in the house. I knew I could wear it around the house. This is one of my old police shirts that, when I was active as a police officer, this is, sometimes I'd wear this to training events and things of that nature. But, that's all it is. It just happened to be the shirt I pulled out of the drawer this morning. That's all. It looked good, it's comfortable, it's still in good shape. Okay, good, I'll just wear this. But I wonder how many of you were triggered because of that. You know what? We need to get over ourselves, folks. We need to get over ourselves. Sometimes we get too highfalutin. And sometimes our own self-righteousness causes way too much damage to society and to others. We need to get over ourselves. Sometimes we think too much of ourselves, and we need to humble ourselves before God Almighty a little bit more. And not just the white folks, black folks, brown folks, red folks, yellow folks. We all need to do that. All right, enough of my ranting. But good job, Gates. You got McCarthy out. I'm very happy about that because it tells me that the days of business as usual in Washington are over. Even if you guys kick Gates out, which I don't think you will, I don't think you'll be successful. Even if that happens, somebody else will come in and do what Gates did. You know why? Because we, the people, are going to choose them and send them in there, and we're going to get more and more and more and more MAGA populists into Washington who believe in traditional values, family values, who believe in integrity, who will not be bribed, who will not be corrupted, who will not play those games because their own integrity is more important to them than money or the love of money thereof. Oh, that makes some of you politicians shake in your boots. And I hope it does. So this ouster of McCarthy, let that be a warning to you. That's a shot across your bow. You keep playing this game, the next one will be a direct hit. All right, folks, thanks for watching. God bless, and we'll see you next time.